Morning, church. You were supposed to be listening to this, but we are having audio issues. Do you know this? Okay, here we go, Pete.
Are we there yet?
Keep going.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Talking.
Come on, Pete, more. Are they now that mimicking each other? We're going to ad-lib. You know this clip. Do you know this clip? Some of you know this clip. My name is Gary Lepine. I'm a member here at Bow Valley, and I have the privilege to share some words with you this morning. This clip was just all of that. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Donkey finally says, fine, I'll stop talking, to which Shrek says, finally. This is an experience I think every family has experienced at one point or another. Have you not? When my kids did it, I would say, yes, hop out. They never took me up on the offer, which is probably a good thing, but there we go. Life is just full of, are we there yet? Is it not? So many of those kinds of moments that push our patience. Will this light ever turn green? There's 10,000 people driving on this road. Why am I the only good driver? Will the person in front of me ever decide what they want to order? I'm in a hurry to get to church, and it's Tim Hortons for crying out loud. There's only so many things on the menu. Will my chosen sports team finally listen to the instructions that I have repeatedly shared through the TV? Will this kid ever go to sleep? How hard is it to pick up your clothes? Why did I ever want one of these in the first place? When will my parents stop treating me like a child? Why do they keep insisting on embarrassing me in front of my friends? My family. Dishes, dishwasher. Dishes, dishwasher. It's not that hard. When will my coworkers start pulling their weight? My boss see the extra that I am doing. I slept with my pillow in the wrong spot last night, and now my body hurts. All of it, everywhere, all the time. So many are we there yet? And if this was all there was to life, it wouldn't be perhaps so bad. It would be manageable. But it's not, is it? Life is so much more complex than that. Those smaller concerns get more significant. Checking to see here. Can we go to the next slide? Why can't my family just have a calm, reasonable conversation? Will my marriage make it? Do I want my marriage to make it? Will I make it if my marriage doesn't? Will my child come home? Will they ever talk to me again? Will they live? I went to visit my mom today and she didn't know who I was. Will I ever find a job? I would love to have an annoying coworker right now. The bills are piling up. The test results were not good. Will the treatment work? Is this it? Is this all the time I get? Is this all the time we get? This is not how I expected life to play out. I'm guessing a number of you, a number of us in this room know this feeling, don't you? There are no more tears, there is no more sleep. The nausea and the pain are so deep and so entrenched, you can't remember what it was like not to feel that way. The longing is profound, overwhelming even. There is no light at the end of the tunnel, there is just tunnel. And if you happen to get a glimpse of a light, you're pretty sure it's a train coming right at you. See, when are we yet becomes something so much more pronounced. Are we there yet becomes, God, will you ever show up? Our song this morning, we're doing a Christmas playlist, and we'll get through the slides here, is O Come, Emmanuel. And when Steve, back in September, said we're doing this Christmas playlist, here are the songs, which one would you like? I wanted this one because this is one of my favorites for a number of reasons. It's an old, old song. That refrain that comes through is that, are we there yet? Goes back to the 12th century. It was first written in Latin and then translated into English in the 1700s. And the imagery in this song is firmly entrenched in the book of Isaiah. Isaiah is a book that is very, very popular at this time of year because it has a number of prophecies and phrases used to describe Jesus. So are we there yet becomes, God, will you ever show up? And as it's voiced in Isaiah, it's, O come, Emmanuel. The name is found in Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14. And it means God with us or God will be with us. And it became a very, very important part of fabric, of the fabric of the Old Testament. It was a thread that ran throughout. And it began in this time period. And it was just this plea for God to arrive, for God to show up, this promise that he would be there. But there were some issues that kind of complicated it. And so it's this prayer where, oh God, are you ever going to show up? Oh come, Emmanuel. Little brief history lesson just to kind of give you a sense of what's happening here. So Isaiah is 8th century prophet, about 700 and some odd BC. And he and his contemporaries are speaking to the nation of Israel, and there's a lot of turmoil going on. And just to kind of summarize, you had the whole nation of Israel that had divided, so they're already not getting along, right? So you had Israel in the north and Judah in the south, and the prophets were coming and saying, look, there are issues, there's concerns, we need to address them, and they don't. In 722 BC, the Assyrians come in and basically destroy the nation of Israel, the 10 tribes to the north. A number of years later, Babylon comes in and takes care of Judah in the south in 586 BC. And in those moments, O come, Emmanuel is just resonating in the people. God, are you ever going to show up? Are you ever going to show up? And it doesn't necessarily get any better. As that unfolds, they're under the Babylonian rule, and it's brutal. It is absolutely brutal what's going on. Then the Persians come in, and the Persians take care of Babylon, and we think, okay, things get a little bit better for a period of time. And they do, a little bit, but it's kind of like, as always seems to be Israel's history, things are good for a period of time, and then the relationship deteriorates. And things are now not going so well with Persia. And they're having to struggle with who they are, and again, the refrain is, God, are you ever going to show up? O come, Emmanuel. Then the Greeks come in. Then the Greeks follow in. Alexander the Great deals with the Persians. They think, okay, well, maybe it'll be better under Alexander the Great. It is not. In typical fashion, Alexander conquers everything, and he is going to reset everything according to what he wants. And so things are somewhat settled and then not settled with Israel. And for about 350 years, you've got a Greek empire that is ruling over the nation of Israel, and then the Greeks, they disintegrate, and Egypt comes in and starts doing some things, and it is just chaos, and Israel is that proverbial political football that is just getting punted around, and the refrain is, God, are you ever going to show up? O come, Emmanuel. And then the Romans. Then the Romans come in, and same thing, all over again. And they too have a rather interesting approach. They are brutal, they are harsh, but as long as you don't upset things too much, they'll leave you be. But historians tell us that as this plays out, so why the history lesson? Because there's 7+ centuries of God, are you ever going to show up? O come, Emmanuel. There is this history of just anticipation and want and desire that something different must be on the horizon. But it's 7 or 8 centuries coming. So what do we do with all this? So let me just reflect, share some thoughts with you as we enter this Advent season. First is the lament. You've gotten a sense of the theme of the service this morning. It has that heavy feel, doesn't it? because it just does. There is that aspect to it. The lament is an inherent longing, mysterious part of our story. Steve he kind of started this last week when he was talking about our series on mental health, where that lament is just part of life. It is what happens. It is that challenging theme that we don't like to talk about. But nevertheless, it is a big part of everything I've just shared with you. That lament is firmly rooted in history and God's people. Just read the Psalms, take a look at the prophets, Job, Elijah, even Jesus, I think, shared a moment of lament before he went to the cross. Notice his words, "Father, if there is any other way of doing this, that would be great. But your will be done, not mine." You can see on the slide, I struggle with all of this because how do you share this? This is not a fun topic. This is not what you want to hear. But it is such a real part of our journey, and it is, I think, an important part of the Christmas story. So bear with me for just a moment. Now, part of my struggle is this. What's the difference between complaint and a lament? See, lament is embraced in the biblical story. Complaining, however, is not. So what's the difference? And I think it's one of those things that you kind of know what you know it when you're there. I can't really describe it to you, but in the moment you might have a sense. Jeff Mannion wrote a book called The Land in Between. And he deals this whole bit in the exile and how do you live life in that land in between. This is a paraphrase from him where a complaint, he says, is the idea of turning away from and is about God, where a lament is turning towards or into God. It's an expression of trouble and trust at the same time. The lament gives us that tension, holds those things together that basically says it's possible to look at life and not be happy, content, fulfilled, frustrated, exhausted, all of those things, and yet still trust that God is present. And those two things don't feel like they go together, do they? But that is at the core of the lament. Lamenting is our part of affirming that the world as it currently is not the way it's supposed to be. We are aligning with all those voices that say, there has to be more. This isn't the way it is it? And it's that expression of, where are you, God? Are you ever going to show up? Oh come, Emmanuel. It is a very real, personal, powerful cry about the brokenness that is so much a part of this world. A lament in some ways acknowledgement that fulfillment, satisfaction, and meaning will not be found here. So why spend time on this? And I'll admit, when I was preparing this, I'm like, oh, this isn't going to fly. This is not fun. But as I pondered it, can we truly, and this could go two ways. One of two ways is my experience. I know too many people where the lament of life has just been too much, and they have turned away from God. It's hard, and I get it. It's hard to be patient with God sometimes. But I think the opposite is also true. See, when you anticipate Christmas, I don't know what you anticipate. I remember what I used to anticipate, right? Presents, family, all that stuff, which is great. But to truly appreciate what God did in Jesus, I think we have to appreciate that this world is not enough. See, God showing up is a statement that there is so much more. So I think when we really grasp and live in the moment of lament, we now have the basis to appreciate all of what God did in Jesus. It was significant for so many reasons. The second reflection of this, the next slide please, is that the timing and nature of God's response is not always what we want or expect it to be, is it? God is so infinitely patient. I've used this phrase before. He just plays the long, right? And it just, I'm not a patient person, I admit it. And when God just takes his time, I am like, will you ever show up? I was trying to figure out how to illustrate this. There's lots of biblical illustrations, but I always wonder about personal illustrations, and I was trying to find one. And I've shared this story, I debated this. I've shared this story with a handful of you, and I admit it's open to interpretation, but let me try it. We can chat afterwards. So my daughter, Sarah, has played soccer forever. From the moment she could run, she's played. Right through. For about a good 20 years now, she has played soccer, and right through club ball and college, university. This fall, she finished up, she was a student at the University of Northern British Columbia in Prince George. This fall was her last year of eligibility. She went back to play that last year. She knew it was going to be a rough season. The team was rebuilding. She wasn't sure what it was going to be like, but she really wanted to go because this was her last opportunity. So she went back to play. The university sports network you can get a subscription to a streaming service, so I could go online and I could watch Sarah's games. So that was a regular routine. Whenever I would just carve out the time, I got to watch my daughter play online. It was her last game, and so Sarah has always played on the back half of the field, so she's always been on the defensive side of the ball. So she has never scored in her university career. So this is her last game. I get home after church, and I'm sitting there in my office, computer's going, and I'm watching this, and the quality of the stream is always iffy, depends on which school and who the camera person is and all that kind of stuff, and it regularly, blotches out, and you have to log back in and all that stuff. So I'm sitting there, and I'm getting settled, and I just have this moment, and I say, Father, I know this is really, really selfish, and I admit that it's selfish, but if Sarah could score her last game, that would be amazing. So, we're playing. UNBC is down 2-0. They are doing what they have done all season. They are, struggling in the whole bit. And the screen glitches out. So I quickly log out, log back in. I'm used to this. And I hear the announcer say, well, that's what happens when you have a defensive turnover, and Lepine buried it. And I look at the score, and it says 2-1. And it starts to dawn on me, Sarah has scored. And I thought, oh. And I rewind and come back. And no, it's gone. Like, it's not there. Like a minute of time, right when Sarah scores, it glitches. And I'm thinking, no. And it's almost, this is the interpretation part, but it's almost as if God is saying, fine, I will let her score, but you don't get to see it. And I'm like, well played, Father, well played. And I emailed the service. I'm like, what happened? And they're like, we don't know. Yeah, there was a glitch. And I'm explaining, this is like my daughter's only goal. We're really sorry, but it's not there. And then, moral of the story, backside. So the other school had a feed. And so a couple of days later, I got to see it. So we can interpret that all you want. My point is simply this. Sometimes I wonder if God just doesn't say, it's not about you. It's about other things. And there's lots of examples of this. The best one is this season. Come on, Jesus doesn't make sense. He is born to an unwed couple, a carpenter from Nazareth. Even the text says, could anything good come from Nazareth? He's born in a stable, a barn. Now, I don't know how this person was, but chances are there were odors. This is not a pleasant place to be born. His whole life, look at who he gathered around him to spread his message. Fishermen, and 2, the sons of thunder, because their tempers were so pronounced. I mean, the whole story doesn't make sense. His whole message doesn't make sense. Jesus is a PR person's nightmare. Like, he just doesn't, can you not get a sense of people sitting back and saying, really, God, this is your plan? And you took 700 years plus to do this? I'd do it totally different. This doesn't make any sense. And it continues right through the whole story. Read the rest of the New Testament. Who becomes one of the primary witnesses to the person of Jesus? Saul, who became Paul. Saul starts off as the total antagonist. He's hunting Christians down and killing them or putting them in prison. And it's like God shows up and says, oh yeah? Guess what? You are going to become my biggest advocate. Like, it's just mind-boggling. I don't know what you do with all of that, but this might help. I've shared this verse or this quote with you before. I think I told you I have it on a sticky note, and it's up on my desk. So it's a daily reminder, because as I've shared with you, I'm not a patient person, and so this is important for me to see every day of my life. Patience is the calm acceptance that things can happen in a different order than the one you had in mind. God's timing is different than ours. God's timing is different than what we would expect or even want. So all of those lament pieces, I think, get wrapped up into this, where God is just saying to us, it may not unfold as you want it to. It may not be what you're expecting, but trust that I am here even if I'm not a parent. And to me, this is what Advent is about. God, will you ever show up? Oh, come, Emmanuel. The next reflection is a little more positive. It's the nature of hope. Notice the last verse of the song. We sang this, but listen to the words again. O come, desire of nations, bind all peoples in one heart and mind. Bid envy, strife, and quarrel cease. Fill the world with heaven's peace. Wouldn't that be amazing? Truly. Wouldn't it just be fantastic if the world got the idea that maybe the way to solve our issues is not with blowing each other up? Won't it be fantastic when the world rests, finally? See, O come, Emmanuel, God, will you ever show up, isn't just about Christmas. It's about yet what is still to come. There's so many phrases around this. I get it in Isaiah. He's just so many words and phrases. Isaiah chapter 11, verse 6 has this phrase, the wolf will dwell with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the young goat. This future peace that's there. Isaiah in chapter 2 also talks about that at some point in time, the sword, the weapon of war, will be turned into a plowshare. So we move from destruction to care and growth. It's an amazing picture, and there's so many of them that come. O come, Emmanuel, is that future hope that something more will be, and that is very much the promise. Now, what's challenging is as I read these words, I admit it's kind of hard to believe. It's a faith story, isn't it? Because we don't have a good track record with this stuff. We don't seem to get it. It's been 2,000 years after Emmanuel came the first time, and we are still here. So as I was preparing this, I thought, but isn't this really what Advent is all about? Yes, I will show up. Yes, it'll look different, but the refrain remains the same. Where we live and how we're governed is very important. Our families are very important. Our livelihoods and health are also very much a concern and very important. But in the biblical story for the people of God, hope is not found in these things, as important as they are. Let that sink in for a moment. In the biblical story, hope is the firm conviction that God will be who he is, that his character will never change, that he loves his people, and whatever comes, he will ultimately respond according to that character. For me, there is no more powerful statement or challenging one than that one, because it rests in trusting that truly God will show up. See, in our world, hope is found in all those other things. And they're important, and that's what makes it hard. Of course your health is important. A family is incredibly important. Your livelihood and being able to pay your bills, it's all important. And we worry about how we're governed and all of those things. Absolutely, 100% important. But that is not where hope is found, is the Advent story. And it strikes at the heart of it all.